Hi viewers, I welcome you yet again to another episode of Through It All with Oak. Through It All is always about encouragement. It's all about letting you know no matter what is happening to you in life, this is not the end. There's a story that will come out of even your trials or your tribulation, the challenge you are going through now. I've been through it also. And of course, I shared my own Through It All story in my book, Through It All. Through It All, I called it the memoir of my many trials and triumphs, because I've been through a lot of things in life. Just any trouble you can imagine, I've been through it. Is it disability? I've been there. Is it people rejecting you because of your disability? I've been there. Whether it's you starting a business and the business or businesses, started falling like packs of cards here and there. I've been there. Talk about challenges in getting a life partner. I've been there. Talk about challenges in getting children even after marriage. I've been there. All right. So I captured the stories of my life in this book, what the challenge was and how the Lord came up for me and helped me through it all. All right. So if you're going through any challenge, you need to read this. If you've not entered any challenge before or yet, because it will always come. The Bible did not say if you will go through the fires or the water. I say when. All right. So when it comes, you may prepare yourself ahead by getting a copy. For the soft copy, just go on seller.com /34N551. And if it's the hard copy you need, just get in touch with me across my social media handles, and you can always the copy will be shipped to you. Is that okay? All right. So tonight's episode of Through It All is actually a very special one. Our wedding anniversary was 32 in February 19 to be precise. But sorry, I could not do anything that time because due to some circumstances beyond my control. But now that I'm in control again, I said, okay, it's still always good to have this special episode of the program. And this is how far I'm going to be hosting the program, because I have another host and I'm the guest today. She's going to be asking me several questions from the angle of youths, from the angle of the married, questions on relationships, questions about life, questions about business, questions about leadership. All right. So from now on, I actually hand over to Deborah Ebenedion. Deborah, welcome to Through It All.
Hello, everyone. This is Deborah Ebenedion here, and it's an absolute honor to be on Through It All with the one and only Oak. And today is going to be exciting. It's going to be insightful, and I would want you to come writing, because you would need your pen, paper, and everything that will help you to actually drag this knowledge, because Oak here has a lot to tell us. We're going to be focusing on love, marriages, and relationships, and this encompasses all forms of relationships. So watch till the end. Yes. Okay, so getting right into what we're supposed to do for this session, I want you to comment your location. We want to know where you're watching us from. Are you in Lagos, Nigeria? Are you in Abuja? Are you outside of Nigeria? We want to know where you're watching from. So please leave a comment under this post, and make sure you also follow this page, because a lot is about to come. A lot is coming to your screen. So for our first question today, we're going to be looking at friendships. So, sir, yes, friendships. So how do you know when a friendship has expired and it's not beef? That's our Gen Z slang. A beef is when you're having issue with somebody. So how do you know when a friendship has expired and it's not just beef, but you've just outgrown that friendship?
Wow, that's a serious question, because in the ideal sense, if you say friendship, friendships are not supposed to expire. All right. But then things happen and friendship just end. the first thing that I would say that will make you know that this friendship is going nowhere. The Bible says that can two walk together except they be agreed? Is there any common interest? Is there anything that seems to connect you? You understand? So if there's no connection, if you can't see yourselves having that thing that binds you together, that sense of oneness that binds you together, you don't need to keep struggling with that friendship. That means that that friendship is not going anywhere. You know. And interestingly, I was reading a verse of the Bible yesterday. That was Proverbs 18:24. It said that he that actually wants a friend must first show himself friendly. So some other version says that some people find friends that are unreliable. Yet some find friends that at the end of the day, they stick so closely like brothers. Another version says some people find you look for friends indiscriminately, and it's not going to last. You look for undependable friends, it's not going to last. Or somebody that claims to be your friend just because of what they think they can get from you, not looking for anything deep. So that friendship is going to break. You understand? So even if you're trying to go friendship, ideally, I always tell people, even if you're going to go into a relationship, the starting point should always be friendship. But once this friendship starts, then you will know whether can two of us work and agree. We are always disagreeing. We are not gelling. We are not bonding. Then that friendship is not going far.
Okay, so there are sometimes that people would say, oh, there are certain people that come into your life for a purpose or for a season. So, for example, our friendships in school, in university, secondary school, there are like 90% people that most of them don't flow with you anymore after that phase. So, what are those signs that you know that, okay, aside the graduation part, there are still some people that will remain your friends, but what are those signs that you see that, okay, no, even if you struggle, even if you want this thing, this friendship cannot just work?
I mean, it's still part of the things I've said that will make you know whether some situational friendship that started maybe in a place of work or when you were in school or when you were younger. I mean, there's always that thing that connects. I keep talking about connection. There are some of my friends, I left university not too long ago, 38 years ago.
Wow, not too long ago. Okay, sir.
And I tell you, there are still some of the friends that we graduated or we left school together, and we are still so much together up till now.
Wow.
You know? So we talk about intimacy. Those ones were very close. But there are some other friends that we have that even if you see them 7 years after now, it's just, how are you? How's the family? We know we are friends. But it ain't there. It's not anything deep.
Yes.
So it's all about the definition you give to your friendship that determines what goes on years after.
Okay, so does this mean that the goals your friendship has determines the longevity of the friendship?
Yes, you know, you in friendship, it's not as if you
plan
to say, okay, these are the goals. But there are some that you just discover that this is not going to go beyond this point.
Okay.
You understand?
Yes, sir.
But there are some that both of you would have so much entered into yourselves. And that's why the Bible used the language stick. You have stuck into yourselves like siblings.
Wow.
I still have my siblings around even 60 years after because we've stuck into ourselves somehow. There is a friend that sticketh even more than even our siblings will stick. That's the level. So once that thing called sticking or a connection happens, you just see yourselves going on for years.
Wow.
And you would think you started just like some days ago.
Wow. Those are the kind of friendships that we aim to have. All right. So how do you handle friends who complete with you silently?
All right. You know one thing about friendship. Friendship is that thing that makes us it helps us to become better versions of ourselves. If I have a friend that I feel that, oh, I love the way he speaks, I love the way he dresses, that should rub off positively on me.
Okay.
Even without talking about it, we just got that we are influencing ourselves. So that happens one level. You understand? But you see, if that competition is tilting towards a negative side, then there is a trouble. Bible says we are not of them that compete with ourselves, neither are we of them that measure themselves by themselves. If you do this, you are not wise. That's what the Bible says.
Yeah.
So if it's unhealthy rivalry or unhealthy way of the jealousy, jealousy is stepping in, then that is not good enough. If I notice it, even though it's a silent thing, I'm going to have a discussion with my friend. You understand?
Yes.
I have a friend, interestingly, from secondary school. And what made us become friends was something very unusual. We were classmates. I came from Lagos to a school in Osun State. And then I started leading the class. I started leading the class. And he wasn't really enjoying it. And I discovered I was beefing me somehow.
Silently.
Silently. And I had to meet him and say, B, I discovered that things are not the way it should between the two of us. I think something is wrong. So what's the problem? And he was honest enough to open up and said, how can you come from somewhere and then you came here, and we that used to lead the class before, you just pushed us to the flanks. I said, is it that? I said, no, you don't need to go this way. And I told them, the school I'm coming from in Lagos, we help ourselves to compete positively, so that if you are first this time, you can't be first next time.
Somebody will compete.
And it's an healthy thing. I said, that's what I want from you. Push me to do more, and let me push you to do more also. And there was a time that he was first and I was fourth. I walked up to him and said, shook him and said, yes, this is what I'm talking about. I'm so sure that was a day he understood that I don't need to be jealous. Meanwhile, we are just in school. We don't know what future actually holds for both of us. So why should I actually compete with you, But that was how everything started. So be careful how you try to compete. If it's unhealthy, then it may not end well.
Okay, so we're emphasizing on open conversations. But what if you have this friend and you tried to have this conversation with the person, but the person is still not opening up and just wants to be on their own? It's not opening up.
Then you don't have a friend. That person is not a friend. Is somebody that is trying to use you for now.
Wow.
Because he feels you have something I don't have. Let me get close to you. If possible, I can get it. Fine.
Wow.
So it's a friendship with ulterior motive. So it's not going to last. That's the way it's going to be.
So if you have a friend that you cannot have an open conversation with, then that person is not a true friend. We'll take note of that. All right. Thank you, sir. So we're moving right to family relationships.
Okay.
So growing up, some of us had different family backgrounds. So we're going to ask some questions from people that were like, oh, this and this area needs to actually be sorted. So how do young people set boundaries with parents without being labeled and disrespectful? So I'll take it again. How do young people set boundaries with parents without being labeled disrespectful?
All right. Very, very difficult questions you are asking me. Because ideally, if you talk about boundaries, except for you being respectful to your parents, honoring your parents, I don't think there should be boundaries per se in families. You understand? Unless so long you respect them, so long you give them the honor and you're not rude to them, then there should not be any boundaries between children and their parents. For instance, my children are my friends. We can talk anything and everything from when they were even in primary school. And I tell you, up until today,
Different.
we're still friends. So, well, maybe the fault is on the side of some parents that just want to be daddy. And your verse will say, when you say daddy, that you just you people can't approach you anyhow.
So you want to always
You
have
have
control.
packed yourself. You understand? Except some parents are like that. They are the ones that are setting the boundaries. Children should be able to approach their parents. The first mentors or whatever that any child should have should be the father and the mother. You should be able to approach them and ask any manner of questions. You understand? And they know that if you can't tell them the truth, if you can't answer that question honestly, they actually may go outside there and get the distorted, version of the answer. So ideally, there should, except you are talking about respect, and I respect my children also. I respect them. I don't just talk anyhow to them because I'm the father.
Okay, so let's redirect this to people that have extreme parents. Take for instance, you start a business and your family, they always want to collect, but they never actually support you. They always want to collect what you can give them through your business, but they never want to say, "Oh, take this. This is what the amount is."
So now you are making it now like maybe the extended family.
Some family members to do that. Direct family members do that.
Maybe you need to tell me if it's a nuclear family, you're talking about the father, the mother, and then the
Siblings, yes.
children.
There's some people that have families like this.
And then they block everybody out. Well, sincerely speaking, for every family that I've seen some behave like that, they need help actually, because there won't always be unity in such homes. There won't be trust. You understand?
So we're saying now, as young people, to take for instance, I'm not, so I'm just giving an example.
I know you are not.
Take for instance, I was born into a family where everybody's just doing on their own. But when it comes to actually supporting the people in the nuclear family, there's no support. But if I start a business today, they will always want to collect from me. Or let's say I'm trying to get to a certain level in life. But because they feel like, oh, I'm doing too much, they would want to restrict me in every possible way they can. So how do I, at those intervals, create boundaries and tell myself or my parents that this and this is what I want to do without sounding disrespectful?
All right, I think you're saying a lot of things in one. I'm hearing something like this is what I want to do with my life,
In a positive way.
in a positive way, of course. And maybe your parents are thinking of you going for something else. I'm hearing something like that, or that I'm doing my own business, and
They
maybe
just want to suck me dry but not support
and
me.
then okay, my parents just want to suck me dry. All right. I know it's a generational shift that is happening here. In the beginning, it wasn't so. I'm talking about, generational shift happening here. In those days, my father died at age 94, had 9 of us. And I tell you, he sacrificed to send us to schools. He did everything. You understand? Now we growing up, we don't see our parents as burdens. No, we don't. But our parents are the ones that grew up believing that you should not be a burden to your children. But to us, we just see it as a way of showing gratitude to them. If you could go all to any, extent to make sure we are who we are today, then you need to actually, like Yorubas will say something, reaping the fruit of your labor. You understand? So that's the background we were coming from in those days. Our parents are reaping the fruit of whatsoever labor they have labored on us in the past. So we don't block them. Yeah, I know when people get married, then the wife starts saying, no, you are doing more for your parents, whatever. But then understanding needs to come in. Up until now, I make sure I take care of my parents, even before my father died. And that doesn't mean that I need to neglect taking care of my nuclear family. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? All right. So, but when it comes to a point that children feel like, oh, now I am independent, no matter what you have done to make me who I am today, you can't just make demand on my life. I think that's something has actually gone wrong somewhere. You understand? So you can't, of course, that doesn't mean you can't say, oh, sorry, I don't have to your parents. If you don't have, you don't have. But don't say because they make demands and then you now feel like, do you want to wreck me in life?
Okay. So we live in a generation where a lot of things are happening, and it's not the common way of doing things that you go to school and become a doctor. So now people are actually trying to find themselves in different career paths. So in those situations where the parents are almost restricting, how do we now set those boundaries?
Now, you see, that's where you need to know what you need to do. And you should be able to convince your parents that, sorry, this is what I want to do. Parents are always some of them are very protective. They want the best. They want the best for their children. And so for in those days, if there are someone says, I want to go and play football, they told them, wow, every of my friends' children want to become medical doctors. But no, now parents now know that there are even much more money in those things you do almost alone, the things you have passion for, than working maybe as a civil servant or whatever. So, for instance, there was a time that my father wanted me to work in the bank. And being a Christian, I knew God wanted me to work as a civil servant. To him, he believes that, yes, I'm going to make more money in the bank. And he didn't, at that time, didn't believe in using God said. Of course, I wasn't rude to him, but I kept on convincing him that this is what I believe I should do at this moment. But at the point he was able to convince me, and then I left civil service and went to the bank, contrary to what God wanted for me. And of course, it did not end well. So when I left the bank, then he came again and said, I know a lot of the CEOs of the banks. So if that one didn't work for you, I can get another one. And I said, sorry, daddy. I've discovered that banking is not for me. And he understood it. And then I said, okay, I'm actually going into business. So it's going to take long before you get off the ground. I said, yes, we have to pay the sacrifice. Do you understand? It's that thing, it's something that is a relationship that families must build. The children must have that relationship with more especially the fathers. And the fathers relating with their children. I see my children as people that, number one, they are intelligent and they are matured enough. Yes, I can only guide them. You understand? Yeah. But then if they insist that this is what they want to do, so far is not anti-God. I just need to do my own research and say, all right, okay, I think it's on the way. Okay. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Yeah.
Thank you, sir. So the next question is a two-in-one question. So there are families that always compare their children. Their parents always compare their children, sometimes even siblings, to other people. So how do people deal with constant comparison? And how do they heal from the bitterness without the family wounds that they've carried? So how do they heal from that?
All right. Well, I know some parents are watching this. Please never compare, don't compare your children with themselves. Not to talk of you comparing your children with maybe your friend's children or your neighbor's children.
So for people that have parents that constantly compare them to other children, how do they get over that hurt? And how do they deal with those situations?
All right. It's a very unfortunate thing when parents start comparing maybe one of their child with another child. Say, Oh, you don't know, you don't understand mathematics like your brother. You don't even behave well like your sister. Please, you don't do that. You know, that was what caused problem
Joseph.
for Joseph. You understand? The father was always showing favor to him, giving him coats of many colors, and then he ignored the other 11 brothers. No, you don't do that. Not to talk of now comparing your children maybe with your friends' children or your neighbors' children. You know, something happened to me when we were younger. The comparison was not even our parents, it was more or less us condemning our parents for being poor, and our neighbors were at least well to do. They had TVs in their homes. We didn't have television.
Wow.
Their parents can travel abroad for holidays. Our parents will only go to the village for holidays. And when they travel, they buy a lot of toys, you know, and then we don't even have any to play with. So we have to always go to our neighbor's house. And the parents say, don't go there again. So they actually beat us for going because, so what do you want us to play with? What do you know? But fast forward to when we all grew up, my siblings and I, we moved very fast in life. And some of those are neighbors that we're comparing ourselves with, they never picked up. Some of them, after we had graduated from university, they were just trying to get into university. You understand? So if imagine our parents were comparing us with those children and say, oh, you guys are not like this. And now we all now grow up and say, oh, the guys you were comparing us with, we are ahead of them. So parents, please never compare your children with your children or your children with other people's children. You don't know the plans God has for their lives and the plan God has, the plan he has for other children's lives. You understand? Please don't do it, because parents, you are not God. At the end of the day, you are still parents and you are human. And of course, the Bible totally, goes against us comparing ourselves with ourselves. It says those that compare themselves with themselves or measure themselves by themselves, they are not wise, they are stupid, they are fools. That's what the Bible says. So parents, please don't do it.
So for the children that have had to endure those moments, how do they now, as grown-ups, handle themselves? Because some of them would have accumulated hurts, feelings that they bottled and maybe did not speak to anybody about. So how do they now move ahead?
All right, so what I would advise you to do is to just do what Joseph did. He forgave his parents, he forgave his brothers. You understand? And you know, one thing that happens that once the future comes and the things they felt you will never become when you were younger, now you are it. So why are you still angry? Let it go. Joseph said the evil that his brothers meant for him now has turned out for his good. So he's not the one actually doing everything to save them, to secure their lives. He wasn't trying to pay them back with the coin they paid him when he was younger. So let it go. Let it go. You know, interestingly, still talking about Joseph and his brothers. When they first came to Egypt and Joseph was trying to just test their hearts and he was accusing them, then they were speaking in their own language and lamenting amongst themselves. Oh, see what we did to our brother when he was young. That's why we are still suffering now. You know, I told myself, if they could say it at that junction, that means that the 13 years or so that Joseph was not with them, anything that goes wrong, they will always go back and use that thing they did for Joseph to actually lash themselves. So they are living in regrets. So why should you now say, oh, I can't forgive them? Let it go.
So let it go and you'll move ahead faster.
Exactly.
So thank you, Sam. So we've left the family angle. So let's take it a little higher to the workplace.
Okay.
Keeping professional relationships.
Okay.
So for in our workspaces, how do you manage workplace relationships without oversharing?
Now, when you say oversharing what?
Personal information. How do you know when to put a stop and say, okay, this is the boundary?
All right. Of course, when we all get to a workplace, we are all at first strangers to ourselves. But with time, you start seeing some people either trying to draw closer, trying to be more friendly, and others just stay as your work
Colleagues,
mates.
yes.
You understand? So by the time you start getting closer and connections is happening, and then we can ask some much more deeper questions. We all know when we get to that stage, and we all know when it's somebody that is just trying to poke nose or probe into my life for whatsoever reason. So you don't need to open up to such persons. You understand? But you see, by the time deep start calling onto deep, like the Bible says, then you know you have found a friend in your workplace. You understand? And then you
So
can.
is it okay to overshare with such kind of people, such people?
Well, if you find a friend, and friends come from anywhere, you understand? If you find a friend that can be vulnerable with you, and you discover that you were able to tell him or her some part of you that you feel is not too deep, and was able to either cancel you or say some things in a way that you know you found solution. You understand? Relationship or friendship in place of work is because there's that mutual benefit, mutual gain. But once friendship is something that is just one party really trying to be a parasite on the other person, then it's not. So what I'm trying to say in essence is that you can actually develop friendship relationship with anyone anywhere, including a place of work.
Okay.
And I tell you, in my place of work, at least I can tell you of like 2, 3 couples. They were staff and now they are married.
Wow.
All right.
From the workplace.
So it happened from the workplace, and they are living happily even up until now.
Wow.
You understand? So, and then you say a principle. I teach people a principle. Sorry that I'm digressing. When it comes to how you find a life partner, I always talk about the well principle. So when Jacob was going to find Rachel, where did they find him? By the well. When Moses was going to find Zipporah, it was also by the well. Who else? And then, of course, when Boaz was going to find Ruth, it was a type of well. A well is a place where the male shepherds, female shepherds, or ladies that have house chores where they need water, that's where they all always meet. And so in those days, that's where relationships always start from. You understand? So in these days, I tell people, if you're going to find a life partner, it's likely to be in one of the wells where God has arranged your life. Maybe your schoolmates, when you left school, people you were in university with, people you were in fellowship with, people you attended the same church, people you worked together, people that you belong in same association.
Yes.
So those are wells. Even though nobody goes to a workplace today and say, yes, I'm going to go look for a wife. But at times, one thing always leads to the other. And then we find ourselves saying, I do, in front of the altar.
Wow.
You understand? All right. So, if you're going to talk about a very a safe workplace or a good place to work, they always have that culture of friendship, that familyness. You understand?
Yes.
When people are free to get mentors or get people that can actually counsel them constructively.
Okay.
You understand? So I won't say get to a place of work and just face your work. In life, it's not about just facing what they say you should face.
Okay.
You may need to get involved in some of the things happening around you.
All right. So don't just focus on work. Also open up your mind to possibilities at the workplace.
So
the next
you
question
may even find a business partner in place of work.
True. Very true. This has happened a lot.
So don't be a robot. Still be human.
Be human in your place of work. All right. So this is a 2-in-1 question.
Okay.
So how do you deal with toxic colleagues without becoming toxic yourself? And how do you build meaningful networks without feeling fake?
All right. So by their fruit you shall know them. You understand? It's still like getting to a workplace and we just meet neutrally. And then in the process of meeting every day, 1 week, 1 month, 3 months, you begin to see like the fume coming from everyone or the type of energy. So if it's toxic, you know, you don't need to be toxic. If at all, if anybody is going to influence anyone, use your own good life to affect that person positively.
But there's some people that every single time they come to the office, you already know that you're going to have a bad day. So how do you now work against that level of toxicity?
All right. The Bible says, sufficient unto each day are the evil thereof. So if part of the evil
Is your colleague?
is your colleague, the Bible also says that God daily loads us with benefits. So use part of the
Benefit.
way He has loaded you with benefits to deal with the evil that you are going to meet in the place of work.
Okay.
Yeah, I've worked in places where I see all those negative energies. At times I just ignore, and at times, you know, I just stand my ground and make the person say that no, what you're doing is not just the right way. You understand? Many of them won't accept, but along the line, some of them may actually say, "Oh, all right, so Kola may actually be right." Do you understand? All right, so you don't run. You don't run from negativity. Light does not run for darkness. If you put on the light, it's darkness that moves back.
Yes.
You understand? So, I mean, that's the way you do it, and guard your heart with all diligence. Don't let the negative energy somebody is carrying start actually depleting your own positive energy. No, please. Don't be enemy with everybody, with anybody. There's not everybody that can be your friend.
Sure. All right. So it has been an interesting conversation. We've moved from friendships, we've moved to workplace relationships, family relationships. So let's head over to people in courtship. So pre-marriage, yes, for people that are about to get married. Why does it feel like once you cross a certain age in Nigeria, love and marriage become an emergency?
I think it's a culture thing, you know. Everybody expect that at least they can give you to you when you are like 24, maybe 25, and say, all right, it's okay. But then once you start crossing the 26 and above type of age, then people begin to ask, when do we eat rice? You know, I think that's the way they say it in Nigeria. Say, when do you want us to come and eat rice?
When are we coming to knock?
And I see many people take that as offense. And people tell me, how can they be asking? I said, you don't take such things as offense. Take it as a way of people giving you like eye openers that maybe it's getting close to the time. Don't fight. In fact, talk faith. Oh, very soon. You understand? Talk faith and say, which rice? Because they will still eat rice. Whether it's 2 years or 4 years or 5 years, we'll still eat rice. So don't fight. You understand?
And also the parents should not pressure.
Well, it's subtle pressure.
Okay.
You understand? And I don't know how you say parents should not do it, because parents are always whether anxious or worried or troubled. You understand? They just feel
right and nothing is happening.
Yeah, you know, I know many wise parents don't put that pressure. What they do is just to start asking subtly, or so what's your plan? Is that you have some other things to do before maybe you're going to a relationship and we're going to marriage? You understand?
Yes. Like
if the parent is close to the child, that's the way you make it one of those discussions. And I'm already having that with my son. You understand? I'm not putting any pressure. I just want to know what is on his mind. So when is this going to happen? When is that going to happen? What are you trying to do now? So I can still guide him, because parenting does not end because you are now 25 or you are 30 or 40.
True.
My mother is 84 or whatever. I'm 60 going to 61 this year. She still asks me some questions as my mother.
Wow.
And I remember some few years back, like I was doing some things, to me, I thought it was right. She saw it and said, no, this is not right. That is not right. This is how it should be done. And I thank her for it. I could have said, what do you know? Mama 80. So parents, children, be careful. Your parents are your parents. Somebody said that no matter your age, my baby is still my baby. You understand? You don't grow up before the parent. I never grew up before my mother, even at 60. At times she comes to my house and asks my wife, of course, jokingly, have you given my son food? And my wife will laugh and I will laugh and I say, your son of 20 years or your son of 50 and 60 years. You understand?
Yeah.
All right. So parents, if you are close to your children and if you are praying for them, you can actually guide them. You can't force them. You understand? It's not about force, and it's not about you crying on their neck. As I want to carry my own grandchild. No, don't manipulate them, and that's where many of them make mistakes.
Yeah.
They guide them, and I know the youth of today, more especially the guys, they want to hammer and drive Hummer before they settle down. It doesn't work like that, actually. And that's why some of you are heading up to be 40 and you have not hammered
or hammered.
And so you can't marry. I was working in the bank before I got married. I think I was okay. But the year I got married was the year I lost the job.
Wow.
And my wife just finished serving. And we had to start from ground zero. You understand? And by today, we have hammered. We're not using Hummer. You understand? I'm just using their language, hammer, because if you have arrived.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've not arrived because I'm still going far. You don't know where I'm going, so don't say I've arrived. But what I'm trying to say, in essence, that young guys, please don't wait until you have the plenty money, you built your own house before you settle. You understand? That's
for the ladies.
Well, I think the ladies are always the career people. They want to have this, they want to do that, and then it's running into the 30s. You understand? And of course, for some of our parents like me that seem to be knowledgeable and know that some things are changing so fast in this time and age. Menopause is moving from like close to 50. Now it's moving close to like 39.
30 years.
You see ladies of 39, whatever, they are saying they're already entering menopause. So as things are moving fast in this age, some health issues too are moving fast. So when you know this type of truth, it should set you free to know that whatever you need to do quick. But it's not about doing it hastily. Or you're going to just look for a wife and you are now in church and looking like this just for any sister. You will find your type of sister. You understand? So I don't know whether I've answered your question.
Yes, you have. So the next question is, how does a person know when they're emotionally ready and not just age ready?
All right. The only way you know it's time for something is when before now it's not anything too important to you, but suddenly you wake up and almost every day it's now moving from like not important to some of us becoming almost like a burden. Your head is just now talking marriage, when it's settle. You understand? So when it gets to that time, that means that something you is telling you it's time. You understand? The time has been ticking. Now it is time o'clock.
Okay. For some people that maybe have not been able to accomplish a lot of things, should that be a problem for them?
You see, marriage is not a deterrent, or it doesn't debar accomplishment. If you ask me, marriage has a way of actually enhancing it. So if you can accomplish it, if there is the wherewithal, fine. But if you discover that some things are not just falling in place, and it's not likely to fall in place even in the next 77 years, and you're already 27, 28 as a lady, so why not trust God that, okay, maybe God is arranging it that marriage should come first before I'm able to attain that.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yes.
All right.
So we have some married people watching this video, and we know that you've spent over 32 years in marriage. So for the married people, what are some things that you would want them to know that would make their marriages sweeter? And also for people that are about to enter that season of marriage, right? What are some things that they need to know before entering marriage? And for the married people, what they need to know as they've gotten into that level?
All right. Before getting married, please ensure that you are getting married to your friend. Don't get married to someone that you're still a stranger to, and you just believe that it's going to work out. And therefore, every marriage that happens, no matter how short, there must always be that moment of cutting yourself, cutting yourselves, dating yourselves. You know, I'm learning those Gen Z terms now. You see, the time of courtship is a time of dress rehearsal for your marriage. Whatever you see during courtship, whether it be good, whether it be bad, is going to actually amplify itself in marriage.
Wow.
A guy that is haughty, that snaps at you when you are courting, and say, okay, when you are married, it's going to get better. No, it's actually, except the Lord intervenes, most times it's going to actually get worse. People that are cutting themselves, and the guy is already threatening to beat you.
Wow.
And you now say, okay, when I marry him, those things will go. Actually, he's not going to threaten you again. He's going to beat you thoroughly. You know, one of my close friends long ago, the guy, when they were cutting, one day the guy just did like this, and then said, do you want to beat me? Then, you know, he came back to his senses. Why will I do that? You know, the third month that they got married, over the most flimsiest whatever, that hand came down. You understand? All right. So what I'm saying is that it's not because you're in courtship that you just think that, yes, it's automatic that it should end in marriage. That is the ideal thing. But if you see things not going the way it ought to go, I beg, don't just be a fool. Don't just be a fool. Ask a lot of questions. Ask a lot of questions. You know, one question they asked Rebecca after the servant of Abraham, after he had said a lot of English or whatever language their language was, the question that Laban and the others asked Rebecca was that, woman, haven't seen all these things and heard all these things, would you go with this man? You see, a lady must always get to that junction, and a guy must also get to that junction, knowing what I now know.
Do I want to proceed?
You understand? Do I want to proceed? Do I want to go beyond this time? So you should always ask yourself that question, knowing what I know now, seeing what I've seen now, hearing what I've heard now, and then still listening to God. Would I go with this guy? Would I go with this lady? To thy own self be true, to thy own self be honest. So those are the things you need to do before you enter into marriage. Then after marriage, once it comes, one of the biggest mistake newly married people always, the mistake they commit is that, you know, in courtship, a lot of emotions were flowing, infatuation was there and everything. Now we are together. And you know what happens when a guy and a lady that have been coming and only meet once in a while somewhere, now they are living under the same roof. There's something Yorubas call Anifi. Anifi means that contempt. But you see, before contempt enters, the thing Yoruba has called Anifi is actually Arifinifini. Now I'm seeing you clearly. Now that I'm seeing you much more clearly.
Before the eyes were blue.
No, well, it wasn't blur because you weren't staying
So
under the
close.
same roof. Now you are staying here 24/7, 30 days of the month, 365 days of the year. So the open eye will now start happening.
Wow.
When open eye happens, is it that you say, oh, now that I know and we are married, we are going to work on this thing. Or you say, oh, now that I know, I didn't know. You see, once you are married, don't allow regrets to settle. Say, okay, so now that I know, what can we do? And that's where the second principle comes in. The Bible says, work out your salvation with fear and trembling. If the Bible can say, work out your salvation, work out your marriage. You can't say, I'm born again, I'm born again. You don't read Bible, you don't pray, you don't fellowship, and say you are born again. You'll soon be born before. You just got that you are gone.
Wow.
So during quiet time, I've done quiet time, even though I miss it some days, some weeks, for 42 years of my life. And I still do quiet time up to this morning. Why? I'm working out my salvation. When I trip in sin, up till now, I must work out my salvation and say, Lord Jesus, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I plead the blood of Jesus, wash me clean. I want to make heaven. Many things are fighting against my making heaven. So I'm working it out. Many things don't want you to succeed in marriage. So you keep working it out, man and wife.
Work it out. Wow. So when you seek God first, even your marriage follows.
Your marriage, you say, yes, God led you into it, but God will not help you live it. You live your marriage.
Live, L-I-V-E.
L-E-A-V-E. Don't japa your marriage. You live in it. We swim together. We sink together. Like you guys will say, we die here together.
Yes.
Nothing is making me to move.
No leave, no transfer.
And both of you should agree from the onset, this marriage will work.
Yes.
I tell you, almost 90, if not 95% of marriages, no matter how, I was friends, myself and my wife were friends for almost 8 years before we got married.
Wow.
Yeah, from university days and everything. Almost 8 years before we got married. We still had our own share. And you'll be asking yourself, did I make the right step? No, you did. But you were thinking marriage will work itself out. We were thinking that once we love ourselves, love is strong enough to turn the wheel of marriage. You are the one that will be doing it every day. You'll be turning it. Marriage does not have inverter. You use your hand to wind it.
Okay.
You can't plug it to light and say, let it work by itself.
But there's some people that are friends for a short time and still have good marriages, right?
You see, you still come to that point when you see the nakedness in quote and unquote of the other person. Something in you feels like, oh, it's not like my father. Oh, it's not like my brother. Oh, it's not like what I thought. But you must actually quickly wake up and say, all right, this is what God gave me. And this is the best for me.
So you decide that, okay, we're going to work.
You understand? We're going to work it out. You're going to work it out. And the earlier both of you agree to work it out, the earlier you start enjoying your marriage. Unfortunately, for those that work on it very early, that understand this principle I'm talking about, they start enjoying their marriages so early. They learn to forgive themselves so early. They, so fast. And so they keep moving on. And so they enjoy it for long. There are some that we fight. I sat with a young lady and said, myself and my husband, we were not. I said, Auntie, it will take you 5 years for both of you to say we understand ourselves enough to properly now say we're husband and wife.
Wow.
She said 5 years. I said yes. unless you quickly understand this principle, and from the first day you are working at it, then it can take you like 2-3 years.
Wow. Wow.
For some people, Debbie, it takes 10 years.
Marriage is truly an institution. You will learn and learn and learn.
You will fight it until you tell yourself. And that's why people divorce so soon. And they say because of unreconcilable differences. Now, those unreconcilable differences are the infinity that they are seeing.
Wow.
That they should actually know, that, okay, knowing this, how do I work it out?
Wow.
But people don't want to work it out. So they say, I cannot, it's irreconcilable. Well, I don't know, but in life, you have to always compromise on a lot of things. And you can discover that actually there are many things you can reconsider. And it will work.
To work. Wow. The knowledge choco. So thank you, sir. You've actually said a lot of things, and we're so grateful because I know that 1 or 2 persons have picked a lot. I know that it will help them to get better in both their relationships and their marriage as well. So if you've gotten to this point of the video, I want to say congratulations. Shake my hand. Congratulations. We want to know from you, give us a feedback. What was one thing that stood out for you from what Dr. Kola said? What was one thing you learned from this session? Please leave it in the comment section. We want to know.
I mean, let me do an experiment.
Okay.
For every guy listening to this, maybe you're married for 4, 5, 6, 9, 10 years. I want you to tell us the truth. Have you at any point felt your wife is a witch and she was sent into your life to pull you back instead of pushing you to the front? Because every marriage always feel it.
Wow.
All right. And so, of course, for the ladies also, very early, one of the things I know ladies face, they start feeling so disappointed. In fact, they almost start regretting that they went with this man. They feel he's not just the right man for them. He's not as wise as they think he is. They feel he wants to slow them down in life and everything. We are just still going through that stormy stage. The time is going to start numbing, and then you start performing. So how do you say, I should tell you, what cancer do you want me to give you if you're just getting married?
You said you were doing an experiment for the men. So I don't want the ladies to feel like
yes. Okay, so ladies also, if you are just married, please tell me. What, maybe now you've gone beyond 5, going to 10. But at the initial stage, what did you feel about the man? That handsome guy with what do you call this beard,
mustache, everything,
and suddenly now he's looking like a monster, not mustache. So tell me also what you think. If you don't want your husband to know, just let's do a poll type of a thing.
All right. So thank you for staying till the end of this video, and we hope you got amazing insights from this video because we know that God is set to do something amazing, something spectacular in your life and in your marriage as well. So I remain the Bride Grenadian, and thank you for having me as a host of this series. So over to you, sir. Over to you, sir.
So thank you so much, Debbie. I mean, you did a very amazing job. All right. So, one thing going through my mind is that even the answers to some of the questions she asked me is raising more questions in some people's hearts. So if you want to, you're afraid to honestly ask me some of those questions, WhatsApp me, DM me, and I will try to honestly respond to your questions. Once again, Debbie, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Once again, everyone, thank you for joining us on this special edition of Through It All. Through It All happens every Thursday. So next Thursday, I'm going to be the host again. At the time, Debbie was actually my guest, and I was the one questioning her.
Yes.
And table turned today. The next Thursday, I'm still the host. I'll be questioning another wonderful guest that will tell us the story of his or her life. Till then, please stay blessed. Keep working on your marriage. Keep working on your salvation. And yes, like you said, subscribe to this my channel.
So,
all right.
Thank you. Bye.